if under that bottom bolt, we'll probably move across them. It's literally millimetres.
And we've got to cut loads of shit. Yeah.
I love a man that's good with his hands.
Look at me, man. I'm finger master. Something like that anyway. Okay. Making some kind of progress now. Okay. I'll feel it. Serious amounts of gas. I tell you what.
Hey, so we are back and we are on a 140i. So a bit of kit this has got a cold air intake. I've covered this on TikTok. So, little update to the BM. We've changed the intake. We've gone for this Typhoon kit, well, the customer has, which comes through here, into there. And we also have meth feed. So hopefully this Pure 800 is going to be seeing some digits tomorrow. So basically the intake, have a look, closer look, comes off the turbo down there. The turbo's there, comes off the turbo, loops round, goes through here, comes through here, and sits here. So you got all that cold air going in there instead of sucking in all the hot air from that turbo. Turbo is a Pure 800, so hybrid turbo. It's got intake, we've got meth, we've got pretty much everything we need as is, just to get going. So today I'm going to be doing the gearbox in the engine on this, just to get it all up to thing. I might not be switching the meth on, I might switch the meth on, I don't know. But engine wise, I want to get that set up, I want to get the boost set up, I want to get the gearbox set up, and I'm going to show you all of it. So let's go. I mean, I could do this live, I could patch it, do it live, but I don't think I'm going to need to. It's just more work than I need to do. So we'll see. If it's a bit of a pain to set up, then I probably will switch to doing it live, because I've got to literally bench the ECU for that. So we'll leave it for now. We'll see. I might do it for the meth, patch it, get it all up and live for the meth. So let's get on with it. Right, so first things first, we need to get this ECU patched. So I don't normally show this bit, but I keep getting asked every time I do a video, how did you patch it? So here we go. So I need to bench this ECU to be able to get full access to all of the data, so that when you're flashing these, you have different sections of the data inside the ECU, and I need to get into the AWS data, which is in the other part of the ECU. The only way in there is to bench it. So these are quite easy to bench. So it's just a case of taking these plugs off, pinning out and flashing the ECU. I need to read the ECU, patch the ECU, flash the ECU. So let's get on with that, and then we can get on with tuning. All you need is the B-flash wires. I have some other little wires, like little adapters, so they have like little pins, holes, because the actual pins on the ECU are tiny. So B-flash, I'm using the Alien Tech power cable because it's the same as the B-flash one, and I can never find the B-flash one. So that's that, and that's it. Here we go. Right, now that that is done, what we need to do now is check to make sure that the patch has been accepted and that we've got access to the live tune side of things, just to speed things up. And then, once that's done, at the minute the ECU is stock, so I'll then write on a bass tune, because when you're live tuning, you're working off the cal RAM, so you're pushing changes into the cal RAM, which is like the memory map. And then that's only got so much space that it can hold. So what I need to do is flash on a bass tune, which is going to get me somewhere near, and then I'll use the cal RAM to adjust that tune rather than trying to build up from stop, because I'm going to have to keep stopping, flashing the ECU, hooking up to live, and then carrying on again. So I'm going to speed up the process by just putting on a TU turbo, a pure 800 turbo that I've already done, because I've already done this turbo before, just not on this car. And then we'll go from there and then adjust it. So first up then, let's see if the patch has been accepted. Right, so here we go, we're hooked up, let's initialize, let's see what we've got. We are live tuning enabled, so that is all on, that is good, that is all patched up. So next thing is to flash the ECU with my current tune for this car, and then we can proceed and sort this one out. Right, so that is flashed now. We've been flashed with the actual tune that I'm at. So if we're looking at the software, which is this one, what you're kind of looking at is everything from here to here is part of the coding. So this bit, all this bit at the start here is just the coding part. So B-flash will ignore that and won't flash it. And this bit here, this little tiny little block here, that's the actual calibration area where we hold all the maps for like the boost, fuel, time, and all that kind of stuff. So when you're doing a flash now, it's just going to keep flashing this bit. So the patches I've just made here isn't going to be affected. It's only going to be this bit. So now we can get the car warmed up and we can start to tune this 140i at last. So the tools I'm going to be using today is going to be B-flash. So for flashing the ECU and all that, and I'll probably use CMD or Femto to read the box. Now I've already looked at the box of this because when it come in, the coding wasn't in the box. So for some reason, whoever's done it before put it back to stock, and the software couldn't pick up the coding. So if you can't pick up the coding, it won't let you read it. So I had to fix that first with ESIS, and then get into the box to be able to read the box. So kind of skipped that bit where I suppose I should have filmed it, but hey, I'm still learning. So what we shall do, I'll zip you over onto the screen and we shall begin. I'll give it a stop run first, then we'll pull the software off with B-flash, and then I shall show you what we do with these and how to set them up. So I'll show you a bit, I'll get you on the screen, I'll show you what this ECU is about, I'll show you how the box works with the ECU as well, because I'll show you more, but this is a torque based to load ECU, so if you start messing with that to make more boost, so if you descale things to get the load higher based on torque, then you'll screw the box. So there's a tight relationship between the two, and I'll show you more in the software, so stay tuned, we'll have a look. So over to the screen, it's a lot better, let's get up. So we've got the dyno on, I've got B flash running. No, I haven't. I thought I did. So let's get B flash running. Ready to catch up. So obviously BMW running MG1 CS003 ECU and OBD protocol and data logs. So connect plus boomerang. So I'm gonna give it a run. It's a stock software at the minute. I have. Oh, hang on. This is being silly. See if this moves. Oh, ghost. Right, we're on. I'm happy with that. Say, traction off. And away we go. So, that's going to keep saying lost. Oh, I'm having right issues here. What's going on? So the Wi-Fi keeps dropping out. Dyno is on. Yeah, we're alright. Okay, let's go. So start logger. Get 5th gear. And pin it. So run one done. So let's have a look. Let's open those up and have a look. So stock wise, we're running 360 brake at 499 newton meters with a bit wobbly up top and a bit weird in the middle. But let's see if it's actually good to drive on a stock map. Because this is quite a common question I get is, can I run my turbo on a stock map? And the answer is, yeah. I mean, the boost is pretty much well controlled still. Not crazy on the mass air. Rail does step a little bit, but that's how they're tuned. Throttle does try and shut a little bit to obviously maintain the torque. And the wastegate probably follow that. No, the wastegate looks pretty good to be fair. Intake air temp 32 degrees. Timing. We'll check the lambda. I guess that'd be pretty. The lambda's pretty lean, which they do on these because they run off correction. And then we've got the ignition angle pretty high, 16 degrees. That's a low res as well. So overall, yeah, you're pretty much good to go on a stock map if you want to drive your car around on a pure 800 with the setup. So I'm gonna flash where I got to yesterday. I have actually tuned this car. I'm just kind of reverting to make it faster for you guys. Saves me cutting out a lot of the messing about to get to where I want to get it to. So I'm going to flash on where I got to yesterday, give it another run, show you what I've done, show you how I got there, and then we'll have a look at the gearbox and I'll show you how you balance the two together. So first run, done. Right, so I've read off the software and this is where I got to yesterday. So let's explain it. Let's get you up to speed with these ECUs. So the ECU itself will run off port request to load. Now how that generally works is you'll have a bunch of limits, a bunch of requests for torque. You'll have a table like this which will convert the torque to a load value, and then the ECU will then try and target the boost pressure to achieve that load, obviously with things like timing and things involved as well. So the ECU can kind of work out what torque it's pushing out to it, like a calculation, and then you have to tell the ECU to target that. So it's a good way of doing it really. I do prefer tuning them like this a little bit, as long as you can find everything you need. Now these ECUs have got so many maps for doing different things, and there's the way that the turbo works with exhaust gas pressures and all these different tables that kind of lean into what you're trying to set up. So it can be a bit of a nightmare to kind of like navigate to get to the point where, yeah, I can now target like 1.6, 1.7 bar and do something with it. So if you imagine load, 100% is around about like atmospheric pressure, so you're not adding any boost. So anything below, like say if I change that to 100, anything below here would be pretty much naturally aspirated, so just coming for the gears, cruising around, not really doing a lot. That's these. So anything above that, if I just put these back to stock for a second so you can see, so the stock will be limited to 200 in load, which equates to, within the ECU, it's saying it equates to about 752, 760 newton meters. Now this is a target request, isn't the actual, but what you get with this is the gearbox is also looking at the same number. So if you're, say if I'm targeting 200 load and it's saying I'm chucking out 750, no sorry, if I'm targeting 750 newton meters and it's saying that's equivalent to 200 load, so it's like just over a bar. So the TCU will be saying, well, you know, that's where the ECU is requesting, so I'll add the clutch pressures and torques and everything else to match that. So you have to make sure that the gearbox and the ECU match each other. Now, what people used to do before we could get into the gearboxes, so obviously people still want the power, but you're going to be limited by the gearbox because they go in sync. You know, they would. Why wouldn't you? So what people would do is you'd keep 200 load and then you would descale this. So you would say for 200 load, 650 newton meters would be the output. So then the ECU would be like, okay, 650 newton meters, 200 load. So give you a bar, you're going along, that's fine. But the issue with that is the TCU, so the gearbox, would be like, well, I'm only at 650 newton meters, so I don't really have to do a lot. Whereas the actual output will probably be around 700, 720, maybe 750 newton meters. So you're doing 100 more newton meters than the gearbox is making like space for, basically. So that's when you find gearboxes slip and they drive a bit horrible, the gears might be all over the place, or it just changes the way they drive because the actual sync between the two is out. So to tune these, like the limit in the gearbox on these, the limit on the torque target on these is about 1000 newton meters. So 1000 newton meters equates to about 260 load. So you'd have to set up this table to obviously meet that request. You've got to go in, you've got to change all these other little bytes and things like that to allow yourself to get to that point, because there's target for loads, there's limits for load, there's all sorts. So you would have to obviously change all your tables to match this. So say if I want to now target 240 load, I want to be changing these to allow me to do 240 load, but then you've got to go into the gearbox to make sure that the gearbox will allow you to change it. Say if I change these here to, so it's pretty much flat from the top, so 850 newton meters, and then I scaled it in, so down, sorry, top and bottom. I scaled that in, and that says, yeah, okay, that's what I want. I want 240 load, and I want 850 newton meters to equivalent to 240 load. So now you'd have to go through all the other torque tables to make sure that you can target that and allow yourself that, because there's going to be targets and limits. So go in, change all your target tables, change all your limit tables to match that, and then you've got to go into your load, make sure your load's targeting the right amount of load, make sure that all your limits are allowing you to get to 240 in the load, and then away you go. And then obviously go into your fuel tables and all that kind of stuff, make sure that your timing tables are well scaled, because what you find in a lot of these ECUs now is when they're setting these up in the factory, they don't go that high. So when they're looking at doing the, say if you want to target 240 load on the timing map for 240 load, it might be crazy, like 40 degrees or something, because these are all computer generated stuff, and if they haven't been there, it might not have been adjusted. So that's how they do it. They drive around, they take a load of data, they put that back through like a neural network, and that will chuck out another map. They put another map back into the car, they do the same again, and they keep going until they've populated the whole of this table. But if they don't go to these levels, then they wouldn't know what the timing is going to be, they wouldn't know what everything else is going to be. So then you've got to go through and change all that as well. Now what I like to do as a little sanitary thing is I'll pull some degrees out of it. So if I'm setting up the boost, you kind of pick what you want to do. Like first of all, I'll add a bit of fuel. So you chuck a bit of fuel in, 0.82, whatever, 0.84, whatever, you add the fuel. Once you've added the fuel, you're making the engine in a bit more of a safe environment. So then you can start raising the boost. So then you set the boost up. So you set your torque up, you set your load up, you get your boost kind of in the right situation where you can do something with it. Like, so you're making power, cool. Then, well, in the meantime, sorry, I missed a step. I would go into my timing tables and I'd pull a few degrees out of those tables to make sure that when I'm raising the boost, I'm not putting the engine under any kind of stress because of too much timing. So then you pull the timing out, you add the boost. Once you've added the boost and you've got your turbo in a nice position, it's not making any more power when you raise the boost or whatever, you're getting too high intake air temps, whatever's holding you back. Then you can back it off a little bit and then start rolling the timing in and see where that is. That's pretty much how I set a car up. Some other people might switch off the boost, set the timing up, bring in the boost. It depends on what you want to do. If I'm working with a hybrid, I like to know what the turbo can do and what's going to hold me back. So I'll be pushing all two, even pulling a bit of fuel out to see what happens with the power and things like that. So you're pushing all three kind of like scenarios to see where these are going to be happiest, especially if I'm running things like meth and things like that. So I'll set the car up without meth, so I know that if he hasn't put meth in it, or if it has a malfunction and you can't drive it with meth or whatever else, it's not dependent on that, and so you can run it as a normal car. So I'll set it up off meth, see what power I make. Okay, I'm happy with that. Switch the meth on, add a bit of time in, see what happens, and then just go from there. So, and then you can either run flex fuel, which will adjust the timing table. So you've got like if you're running flex fuel, you can kind of set up your table depending on what fuel they're going to run. So if it's like 95 run, 99 run meth, then you can give yourself 3 tables, set that up, base on that. Then if you're running 95 RON and the knock sensor, the flex fuel sensor can see that, then you can start running that table for 95 RON and all that. The most OEM new ECUs do have kind of like a level of flex fuel. They will have a low RON timing map and a high RON timing map, and they can blend between the two sometimes. So you've got quite a lot of stuff in these new ECUs, but they take a hell of a lot of setting up. Like a hell of a lot of setting up. Like I literally spent all day on this yesterday. I got to like 12 versions just to set it up, and it's a headache, which is why I don't film a lot of that side of it, because you are going backwards and forwards and things like that. I'm going to look at a way I can film that to kind of get that across to you, but at the minute this is where I am. So I've set that up, and then what I've done then also is, because the wastegate controls on these aren't as easy to set up as like I don't know if you've watched other videos, but like a Med 17 or a TFSI or something like that, they have a wastegate table, whereas these predominantly run off PID. So they have a wastegate table, if I just find it, which is this here, but it's a feed forward table. So you don't get normal axis data. You can change this axis data if you know how to do a bit of ASW work. Then you can change this axis data. So you can say like, don't use the exhaust pressure gases and things like that. Use RPM over throttle position, which is probably the easiest way to set up a wastegate, even if it's a pre-gate. So what this basically does is the ECU looks at this table, and it's like a best fit table. So it will try and target this as like a pre-feed forward, and then if it can't match this, or if it's overboost, underboost, then it sits in the PID system, which will then pull, add, minus, depending on what you need. So proportion is the ramp. So if you're tuning spool, you'll be looking at proportional tables. If you're trying to stop it from overboosting once you've spooled up, then you're looking at the I tables. So it's integral. And then you got the derivative, is like the brake. So if it goes out far too that even the eye can't keep control of it, then the D will kick in, and then it'll pull all the boost out, and then the worst you're going to get is limp mode. So this is how these ECUs work. So the tables for the P, the I, and the D, and then you've got a feed forward. So there's like 4 stages to the boost, if you like, boost control. So you've got your target, you've got your wastegate feed forward, then you've got your PI and D. It's pretty straightforward. The rest of it is just literally limits, torque limits, fuel request, gauges. Now the gauges are like, you can change all of the gauges to do what you pretty much want. I know a lot of people bang on about these gauges. Are my gauges accurate? Or is this and that and the other? Can be. Yeah, it depends how well it's set up. So you've basically got target. So you basically got the scaling, which says like you can have up to 1,000 newton meters, say, which is these tables here. So there's quite a bit. It's 8-bit maps. and you times them by 8 to get the number that you want. So there'll be one for torque, one for say foot-pound, newton meters, one for HP, one for kW, one for all that kind of stuff, and then it's the number times by 8. So if you've got like a 50, it's 50 times by 8, and that's what it's going to output on the screen. So those are then worked from another table. If I just go back, why not? Here we go. Which is like the scaling of those sensors of the actual display. So it's like what it's going to chuck out based on what. So you can blend, like I normally kind of put the car where I want it to be, and then if they really want them quite accurate, then you pretty much running the car on the dyno to see what power you get in newton meters wise, and then setting the gauges to match that as you're going through the gears. So if you want to target like 500 newton meters, 800 newton meters, whatever it is on the overall scale, but you want it to actually show 720 newton meters when you're doing 720 newton meters, then you do have to change that scaling to kind of match. So that's the gauges. That they're only as accurate as you set them. They are pretty much like a physical thing. I've also added some protection as well, because obviously we're going to be running into higher temps, higher boost and things like that. So there are a bunch of tables which the stock don't have anything in it. So I've just switched those on to say like drop the load if you see heat and all that kind of stuff, just to keep it, you know, a little bit more safe. You do have to tune quite safe. All the other safety is left on. So, and that is about it. I haven't touched any of the actual knock tables for the sensors, because I don't really agree with doing that, because the simple fact is that if you start messing with those, unless you're changing the internals of the engine, then it can get a bit messy. So I've left those out too. And that is about it really. I've added a bunch of time in, but I've not done the wastegates. I'm not adding a meth yet, so that is just timing based on the current setup. And that's about it. Like, you can patch these ECUs to tune them live, as I mentioned earlier. Now what that would basically do is, if you're looking at this map now, you've got your calibration area, which is here in the blue. Just means there's maps over the top of the actual table. So this is the bit that the ECU is going to use to control the engine based on the sensors, based on all that kind of stuff. Now anything here, so this area here is what we call the ASW area, which is where a lot of the coding is. So some of the axis data for the switching and things like that is going to be in here. So we patch the ECU to be able to use what the OEM have set up anyway. So the OEM don't tune it, like they don't flash cars, they don't flash forward, backwards and forwards and things like that. What they basically do is they hook up like Vector or ETAS to be able to work with the ECU as you're driving around, so they can make live adjustments, which is a lot faster for what we need sometimes. These flash fast anyway. I mean, with B-Flash, once you've actually flashed this ECU, it's patched to be able to work with the ECU, whatever. It's like 30-second flash time, so it's not too bad. But if you're running like into the minutes of flash time and you've got big turbo and things like that, then you kind of want it a bit quicker, because it's the cooling down between the runs is a bit of a pain in the arse. So if you run it up, you get a bit of heat in the turbo, you get decent figures. You then turn it all off, flash the car, turn it back on again, everything's cold, got to warm it up, get it all going again to get the kind of same kind of where you are with the figures and things like that. So obviously with the live tuning, you can just bang, change, run again, bang, change, run again. So it's a lot faster. It doesn't make the tuning kind of any better. Like, you can still be just as accurate without it. It's just a faster way for us to be able to do it. So I might patch this ECU and show you that, but at the minute I am running just on the flash because I've done these turbos before. It doesn't really need as much level, but the meth, I think I might patch it for that and then be able to set that up, but that might be in the next video. I think that's about it. You've obviously got a few fault codes because he's running a decat and everything else. Here's the exhaust flaps. So the flaps have basically got tables attached to them. So like map for exhaust flap control against it. This is if you've got a convertible roadster and the roof's open. Like, they've got like loads of crazy maps for doing the exhaust flaps. And it's basically that's closed and that's open. So it's just a case of how much is going to open on the way in. That's about it really. You got speed limits. So they're not too hard to set up, but they are quite hard to set up. So what I'm going to do now, I'll flash this onto the car and then I'll show you what I'm looking at in the logs. We'll show you what power is it's currently checking out without meth, and then that's about it. So, oh, we've got the gearbox. We'll look at the gearbox, and then we'll look at the gearbox. That's it, I'll flash the tune back on, so I'll give it a run now. We'll see where she's at. So we'll give it a run. I'll show you where she's at. I'll show you what kind of things I've set up, and then I'll show you the gearbox, and then I'm gonna pull the ECU, bench that, patch that, get it ready for the meth for the next session. So let's go. So back on the dyno, gonna give it a run now on that tune. I've got the logs already running in the background. I've got all my traction and everything is off. It's my, yep, ghost is off too. Here we go. Right, so that's the run done. Gonna have a look. About to speed up the ramp rakes. It's a bit warm today. So some of the issues you're gonna find when you're tuning these is going above the 1.6 bar limit. There's a 1.6 bar diag limit which we're gonna bounce off. So I have gone above this. So there's my boost, 1.7 bar, pretty much flat. And my set point will always say 1.6, which is fine. It's just how I've set the ECU up to deal with that. That's fine. Intake manifold temp is up to, where's that gone? Oh, that is the intake manifold temp. What if I just click that? Hang on, I'll argue with myself. Move that. So throttle position. Do have a bit of things. I will check that on the road to make sure it's not just a dyno. Relative load set point 220, it's fine. Lambda 8281. Where's my temps now? Show it up here. Wastegate is controlling that well. There it is. For the life of me, I could not see that then. So without the meth, we're running 41.2 degrees, so that's pretty good. I'm going to switch the meth on, and that's going to drop a little bit. And apart from that, we've got engine torque, which should be like 560 something. Yeah, 560. So currently, without the meth, we are at 521.2, 667 newton meters. So that's what, 180 brake more, and I can't remember what the stock torque was. Let's have a look at the graph. So stock would be that one. So that's the power difference between the two. What, nearly 200 newton meters? Yeah. So I drive a little bit different. Now, the only thing I would say about this car currently is it's not diffed. So this is going to feel absolutely horrible on the road. So I'm going to have to do some work with that. See if I can make that feel a bit better. But for engine-wise, without the meth, I'm okay. Now, obviously, we're going to switch meth on, and we're going to go further. I also want to look at these RPM limits because I'm hitting something here, which I'm not too happy about. So stock, I actually go a little bit further. So I'm going to see what that is as well. But currently, that's where we are. So that is setting up the ECU of an MG1 without meth. We are going to look more into meth. I'm going to patch this ECU now. So I'm going to go over to that. And then I might cover the gearbox when I do the meth, just to space the videos out a little bit so it's not all in one video. So let's go patch this ECU, get ready for that live tuning to set the meth up, and then I'll show you the gearbox in that video too. So yeah, so this is all done now. It's all patched up, ready to go for the meth, and I'll dig into the gearbox and show you that as well in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed it. These cars are available to be tuned via my dealers, via my new tool which is coming out, which I will drop into the box below. There'll be a video coming out on that which will enable you to flash cars like this, diesels, Mercedes, VWs, all through your mobile phone using the little tool that I can send out to you. So please like, subscribe and all that because it really helps the channel. And I'll see you when we've finished this BMW 140 off next week. Cheers guys.